we bought our property at auction in Cannes. We saved an absolute fortune. You could not buy that same property today for that money on or off market. There is a potential way to save money, not just a small amount of money. We are talking tens, if not 100,000 euros. I've been a contractor, now I'm a developer, and I feel I want to share my journey, my experiences. Look for the worst house, but in the best area. We've done this ourselves. Our first property, this is what we did. We went for the best area, but we bought an absolute pig of a house. Good morning, everybody. Bonjour. In today's video, I'm going to be telling everybody how you can buy a property in France and potentially save thousands of euros. At each and every step of your property purchasing journey in France, there is a potential way to save money. Not just a small amount of money. We are talking tens, if not 100,000 euros. Properties around here are extremely expensive. It's one of the most expensive markets in Europe to purchase a property, and that's because it's one of the most amazing places in Europe to live. Now, if you're like me and you like to add a bit of value to a property, you look at it as a sort of investment. You're not necessarily going to sell it at the end, but you like to think that it's worth more than you paid for it after you've spent a bit of time on it, you've spent your hard-earned money on it, and at the end, you like to look at the result and think, I've added quite a bit of value to that. Well, if you're that type of person, then you need to be paying as little as possible for your initial purchase. Firstly, for those of you who are new to the channel or just come along, why the hell would you trust me? Some random guy shouting at a camera in his van on his way to a job. Well, I've lived in France now since November 2019. I've viewed hundreds of different properties on my own property search. I've been a contractor, now I'm a developer, and I feel I want to share my journey, my experiences, and make sure that other people looking to start their property journey in France, in particular on the Côte d'Azur where I live, I just want to help you guys save some money. That's all. I want you to make the right decisions because it is one of the biggest decisions of your entire lives. Let's get straight into it then. Point number one, where do you find that first property? Or that second one, or that investment one, or that holiday home, all that jazz, where do you find it? There are many, many places to find a property in France. We did the usual thing when we were in England and we looked on Rightmove. And then from Rightmove, we kind of led down the path of other more specialist English-speaking agency websites. They're good for getting a feel of the market, but a pitfall with English-speaking agencies is they do almost always come with a premium. So for those of you that don't know, let me just tell you, agents take a 5% fee. I'll let that just sink in there. So you're buying €1 million plus property, and they're getting themselves a juicy 50k. Obviously, that fee can be split, but it's 5%. So how do you make that cheaper? Well, there's a couple of ways. Number one is you can buy a property that's off market. Find your own property. How would you do that? Well, there are many ways. There's networking. You can go into the local places where you live or where you want to live, where you're renting at the time while you're looking for a property. Get to know everyone. Tell everyone you're looking for a property. You never know. People might just start to bring you on because people looking to sell their property are also looking to save paying that agency fee. There's another thing you can do. Look on places like Facebook Marketplace. I know, crazy. but there are a lot of properties on Facebook Marketplace that are going direct. Drive around the places that you want to live. You always see in villages where you want to live, once you know your area, find those properties with handwritten signs saying property for sale, contact this number, get in touch with people. If you like a property that much, or you think one looks like it could be dormant, no one living there, leave a little flyer. I'm interested in buying your property. Knock on the door. I'd love to buy your property. Are you ready to sell? That sort of thing. Don't do it too often though. Don't get caught. Don't get stopped for harassment or anything like that. But it's a good way. One of the best ways to save 5% straight up from the purchase of that initial property. Say you're looking at €1 million, you've just saved yourself 50 grand straight up from that. The next option is buying at auction. So properties in France that go up for auction that have been repossessed. I will do a separate video on this because the process does take a little bit of doing, but it's an option. There are websites out there, one called tribuca.net, and you can search for listings, and then there's a couple of days that you go for a viewing, you go take a look at the property. You have to find yourself a local avocat registered at the bar of the area that you are going to be placing the bid at, or where the property is going up for auction. Like I said, a complicated process. I will do a video on that soon, but that's an option. You save quite a bit of money there going to auction because you've got less buyers, you've got less competition, you've not got the agency fee. We bought our property at auction, and we saved an absolute fortune. You could not buy that same property today for that money on or off market. We made an incredible investment there. There wasn't a lot of interest because it did have a person living in there. We just saved a lot of money on that one. Another great option is Le Bon Coin, or Les Bon Coin if you're looking from England. Le Bon Coin.fr, Le Bon Coin.fr is a great place to find properties, similar to Facebook Marketplace, but you do get ones with agency listings, but they are more of a local market. So a lot of French owners will go and list on Le Bon Coin rather than using the English speaking estate agents, the bigger ones. It's better for finding more lower end bargain properties. That's because the higher end properties will generally get listed with the English speaking agents because they have the clients. Another great option is another French website called C'est Loger, or C'est Logger in English, or Yorkshire. C'estLogger.fr. Get on that website. Another good local one for finding bargain properties, and that again is a French website. You can use Google Translate. Get it on, get your Google Translate on, and get searching. You can search then for properties from the UK in the areas that you wanted to look at. So this is whilst you're looking for a property. We're still not even at the point where you've found the property yet, and we're saving tens of thousands of euros, potentially hundreds, from the original purchase price just by looking at these off the beaten track methods. Don't just do what everyone else does. If you're looking for a bargain, you're going to have to put a little tiny bit more effort in to find one. So if you are in the UK and you are looking online, use the French websites. C'est Loger. If you can, I'm not sure if you can, but change your jurisdiction on Facebook Marketplace, look at properties on there. Next step, if you are in France, go and see the local agents in the small boutique shops. Because these local guys who are not from big chains will have a lot of local properties. People will bring them, locals will know them, they'll be friendly, they'll do anything they can to help you. They're not part of the big chains, so they don't get as much traffic through the door, and they may have some absolute bargains. And what I say about estate agents is, the good ones, they're a bit like the TikTok algorithm. The more that you work with the same one, the better the properties get that they bring you, because they get to know you as a client. They get to find out your budget, what makes you tick. Every time you go to a property, what you should do when you're with the estate agent, when you're walking around, list the good points, list the bad points about the property. What do you like about the property? What would you like to see more of in future? Why didn't you decide to make an offer on that property? Be open and honest with the agent, but never too excited. Although I am recommending to avoid the big English speaking agents, I myself have bought and sold properties through these agents, and that's because when you find the right one, they are really, really good at their job, and they are the ones that help you to find the properties. They're the ones that help you to negotiate with the seller, push your position with them, and why you are a good buyer. That is a very positive step, because later in the video I'll discuss why it matters so much for the agent to also take your side when you are purchasing a property. It means a lot to the seller. It is possible to find gems through the English speaking agents, and I know because we've done it. But if you're looking for that off the beaten track way to do it yourself, find it yourself, the methods that I've just disclosed are a great place to start, and somewhere that many other English buyers or English speaking buyers don't look. So you can find some real diamonds in the rough there. It's harder to find a diamond in the rough through a traditional English speaking online agent, just because they have the clients. They have a big client base, they've got great promotion online, that sort of thing. So it's harder to find that diamond in the rough. But don't count them out. I've met some fantastic agents on my journey, and they are still bringing me properties to this day. As you may have seen whilst watching my channel, I do work with a few, and that's because they're trusted, and like I said, they have got my TikTok algorithm almost nailed. Next tool in your arsenal: know your market, know your locations. Where do you want to be? What are the higher value areas? Are there any villages close by next to that high value area that will benefit from the spillover effect? So, for instance, recently we went to look at 2 properties near a village called Valbonne. They were actually a 5-minute walk away from Valbonne, but were a Châteauneuf postcode, which is a border village. That meant these properties benefit now, pre-renovation, from a lower value per square metre for the postcode. But if we renovated them and then came to sell them, we would market them as Châteauneuf, bordering with Valbonne, 5-minute walk away from Valbonne centre. So when someone purchased that property, they could say to their friends, "Oh, we live in Valbonne," when in fact they live in Châteauneuf, and they themselves benefited from a lower price per square metre. But they are a 5-minute walk away from the centre. This sort of thing happens a lot. Know your market. So whilst other tips, whilst you're looking for your property to initially save those tens of thousands of euros, is look for the worst house but in the best area. We've done this ourselves. Our first property, this is what we did. We went for the best area, but we bought an absolute pig of a house, because we knew once we'd renovated it, turned it around, it would be the best house on that street in the best area, meaning we could add the most value to it. So if you are looking to add value, always choose a pig. Always choose the diamond in the rough, because that is a great place to start and add value. Just to recap, during your property search, look in the off the beaten track places. Get to find the good English speaking estate agents that will bring you the right type of properties. Look in areas that benefit from the spillover effect. or are walking distance to the villages where you actually want to be. Look for that pig. Look for that diamond in the rough. She'll look lovely when she's done. Right, next part of the process is you find your properties. Then you're moving on to one of the most crucial phases, which is negotiation. You're making that offer. You're getting excited. You are walking around the property. You know you like it. You're keeping your cards close to your chest. You're listing the positives. You're listing the negatives. You're not giving too much away, but you are letting the agent know this one could be for you. It's time to start your negotiations. So, if this one is a good property, you ask a number of questions that give you hints as to whether there is wiggle room in the price. I mean, to be honest, the listing price usually has been overinflated because sellers will always push their luck and try and get the best deal. And that's just how it works. We all know that. We should expect that. The sellers will always expect a little bit of negotiation, so don't be offended. We have put in some lowball offers just to test the market many times, and it's either a straight out refusal, or if you're lucky, it's a nice and juicy counter offer. You are going to ask the seller or the agent a number of questions that have the intended purpose of dropping that price. Number one, how long has this place been on the market? Obvious, really. If it's been on a while, they're going to be keen to sell. Number two, why are you selling it? Or why is this property on the market? At this stage, you're hoping for some sort of personal circumstance with the seller that causes an urgency to sell. We don't need to go into any details, but you need to see urgency to sell, and that way you can get the best deal possible. Number three, have you had any buyers where the deal has fallen through? Have you turned down any offers, or has the seller turned down any offers that have been regretfully refused? That's a good starting point. Are there any issues with the property itself that are causing it to be less desirable to other potential buyers? Are there drainage issues, that sort of thing? Things you know as an investor that you could fix and add value to that property and make it more sellable in future. And that's it. 3 or 4 simple questions that will give you a big indication onto the seller's appetite to make that deal. Use those to gauge your offer. Personally, I usually just go in as low as I possibly can and hope for the best. Next part of negotiations, what you want to do is during your walk around of the property, make a list of all the jobs that they're doing, all the good points and all the bad points, particularly all the bad points, because you're going to use these as tools within your negotiation to say, actually, this needs doing on your property. Are you aware of the cost of this? And put doubt in the seller's mind that their property is worth as much as they think, because anybody who knows anything about property will know that these jobs need doing and they are urgent. So, is there an issue with the drainage? Did you notice damp? Did you notice any cracks? Is there a settlement issue on the property? Does it need electrical work? Does it need replumbing? Are the bathrooms all in need of renovation? That sort of thing. Just anything that you can put a value against the work to help you with your negotiations with the price. When you send your offer, you're going to use these as tools and leverage to reinforce why your offer is lower than the market price. You need to sell your offer to the seller as a good deal. You do that through leveraging your knowledge of how much renovation works will cost on their property. Be detailed in your offer. Don't just say the figure. Say the figure with your workings out, with your backup, so that they can see that you've done the maths, you know what you're talking about, you know why the property is worth what it is. It all helps with the negotiations. One final bit of wiggle room you can have on the negotiations is with the agency fee. Sometimes an agent will drop their fee by 1% or so to help the buyer sell that property if it's been on the market for a long time and they believe it's a difficult property to sell. So discuss that with the agency and say, look, are you willing to lower your fee slightly to get this property off the market for your seller? Sometimes they're willing to do it, and that can really help with the price of the property as well. If you're spending $1 million and that agent is willing to drop their fee by 1%, that's a €10,000 saving. There's another area you could save money. The next stage, where do we go from here? We sign what is called a compromis de vente, or a promise of sale. And I'll go into that in more detail into why that's an important phase of your property purchase journey in France, why it's different to other markets around the world, and why it's important that you have that good relationship with the agent and with the seller, and you can back up your offer with what they are asking. Now, the next process of the sale is one that you've been working towards without even realizing, unless you do know about this stage. You have been in a job interview scenario. You're about to sign something called the compromis de vente, or the promise of sale. Now, this is a legally binding document that ties you and the seller into a contract of sale. You've got a certain amount of time after signing this document to produce the funds and finalize the process of the house purchase itself. Usually around about 3 months. Now, it can take longer than that, depending on whether you've got finance secured, that sort of thing. But there are only a number of specific clauses that can get you out of this contract without a fee. One of them is if you cannot attain finance. That's why you've been in what is like a job interview scenario. Because if you're not the only buyer, you will be ranked amongst other buyers as to whether you can afford this property or not, because you are about to take that property legally off the market for at least 3 months, which means if the seller is in a hurry to sell, you're about to stop that sale if you cannot attain finance. So we've been on the receiving end of this decision before on 2 properties, because we have been foreign buyers in one, and in another scenario we were up against a cash buyer. So if you're a cash buyer in this situation, that's fantastic news for the seller. That means you've got guaranteed cash. All you need to do is prove that it's there in the bank, and you will be signing that document faster than that guy can get his pen out of his pocket. But in the case that you need finance, this can be a risk. That is why you are judged. You're judged by the agent, whose interest it is to look after the sale of the property, whether that's for their commission or they have a personal relationship with the seller, or you are judged by the actual seller himself. It's kind of like when you've got to do a pre-contractual thing for renting a property, that sort of thing, to make sure you've got a job and you can afford the rent, because it's the same sort of principle. You're about to lock that seller up in a contract that he does not want to be in with the wrong type of person. The amount of properties that I've been to where they've said, oh, we have some offers, but the sale fell through. Honestly, it's heart-wrenching for some of these sellers because they think they've got the deal, they're all excited, and you haven't sold that property until the money is in the bank. I'm going to go into depth in that a little bit more as well when I talk about selling your property in France, because it's important from that side of things as well. But as a buyer, if you're in a strong financial position, you've got, I don't know, investors lined up already, you've got a bank lined up, you've got a pre-mortgage decision, you're in a pretty strong position, then it shouldn't be a problem, even if you're up against another potential buyer. We actually lost a property because the other buyer had cash and the seller wanted to be out of their property as quickly as possible. And it's understandable, to be honest, because it is a risk, especially if you know the buyer is a foreign buyer trying to attain a French mortgage. So there you go. That's the viewing, the negotiation, the offer process, and the compromise or the promise of sale all in one go. You can't really save any money on the promise of sale, obviously, but you can definitely lose the sale completely at this point if you've not done a good enough job up to that point to justify your position as a buyer. So that wraps things up for this video. I hope you found what I've said interesting, and I will be making more videos along the lines of this one with advice from my experience and other things that I've found during my research of properties in the area, my research on the market, my work out there as a contractor. Now we're moving into development and speaking and networking with a lot of people, investors, that sort of thing. It's just a really interesting subject for me now, and I'm happy to share that journey. I'm happy to share that knowledge, and I hope that people find nuggets of value in there. If you do have any specific questions around any topics that I ever cover, just comment below. I'll do my best to answer them below your comment, or in a featured video, a Q&A or something like that along this series. So thank you for coming along. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed divulging all this information. Make sure you do all the usuals, like, subscribe, hype, all that jazz, because I really want to get out there. I want to get that algorithm on board, and I want to grow this channel because I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. So please support me. That'd be great. Thank you for coming along, and I will see you in another video shortly. Ciao.